Hello, welcome back. I didn't time lapse a bunch of this because there's been a little bit of figuring out what the sort of plan is and what we're going to do. But if you have a look here, we've now relocated the header tank up to here. I can make a custom bracket and probably drop it down a bit, but I do like the height up there. Just hopefully means it's going to function correctly. And again, I'm tidying them up out of the way and cable tied or anything, but just put a couple of the custom coolant hoses in there to match up to the new coolant bottle location. You can see where the bonnet's going to sit is probably like 30 mil too low, so it's going to touch the coolant tank. I could probably get a little bit more clearance from modifying the strengthening in the bonnet, but I am looking at temporarily maybe spacing the brackets out on the bonnet just to give me the clearance for now, and then just getting like a little alloy header tank made up that's going to fit in the slot, because it doesn't matter too much if it's a little bit shorter, as long as it's got reasonable capacity and the hoses can go on in the right place. We are golden. A couple of people have asked me why down here, why am I want the intake down here. Well, that's where the standard cold air feed is on the R56. It doesn't come through the scoop, it just comes down in the corner. So if I sort of slot this onto the turbocharger, bearing in mind I haven't got the heat shield or anything yet, I'm going to do that after it's in and I know what I need. That actually sits right in front of that cold air feed, so once the slam panel's back in, you can probably see I can run a nice bit of heat shield around here, put a bit of rubber edging along the top of it so it seals to the bonnet, and hopefully that should prevent some heat sink. But ultimately, if I can get that to run fairly cool, that should be quite an efficient setup. At the end of the day, it's not a massive turbocharger, and we've increased the size of the intake, the charge pipe itself. Obviously with the open filter and a much shorter, less restrictive run, it should hopefully at least perform as good as some of the other kits that you can already buy pre-made. But just the key is going to be whether we can stop it heat soaking on multiple pulls. But that's part of the fun of doing this kind of stuff, is trying to come up with your own solutions to problems and stuff. And I'll be brutally honest with you, I just can't bring myself to part with like 400 quid for like an AEM intake, and that it just seems to be ridiculously expensive. Work in progress, a little bit of trial and error, but hopefully we'll get a majority of this back together today, except for the last couple of bits I need. I'll say waiting for a oil return for the turbocharger because I couldn't get it yesterday. Hopefully be able to pick it up tomorrow, and then we can chuck the thing back together, get some oil in it, get some coolant in it, and run it and see if it works. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm just going to crack on again just because of the type of work I'm doing and where I am. It's difficult to get very good angles and whatnot for you guys to see exactly what I'm doing. But I'll just sort of come back and keep you posted as and when I come up with something interesting or something that I think is worth you guys sort of seeing. Ooh, welcome back again. Excuse my mess. Been beavering away, just trying to come up with a bit of a solution. And this is about as far as I'm going to get, so excuse my son shouting in the background. This is about as far as I'm going to get for now, because we've popped the Vanos solenoid out, which is on this back corner here. If you ever worked on any of these before, down here somewhere. Bit awkward to get to, but not too difficult to remove once you've got this kind of access anyway. And then I'm going to order a new one of them, because although I'm not getting any Vanos solenoid codes saying that it's actually faulty or anything, above the Vanos solenoid is dry, so it's not the rocker cover at the back. The rocker cover's weeping a bit at the front, but this plug here is constantly covered in oil, and I can't see where it's coming from. So I've come to the conclusion, looking at how wet the block is and the head is underneath this solenoid, that this solenoid is just allowing oil to pass maybe past this little O-ring or something. I don't know. I'm going to keep this as a spare, like I say, because it does seem to be working. And I could put a fresh one in there, and the outcome will be that it's still causing the same. It's still got a leak from somewhere. But as far as I can see, the sump gasket's not leaking. You can see the oil cooler and filter housing is actually dry down there. So I think it was actually just the oil return and feed that were leaking. It looks like the sump's good as well. That was resealed when I bought the car, to be fair. So the only other thing I think it can be is probably this Vanos solenoid, and if you look down there, it is very wet just everywhere below that Vanos solenoid. You can see the tensioner bolt is clear and clean, So that doesn't seem to be leaking. So yeah, we'll chuck a new Vanos solenoid in it, get it all back together. I can't get the part till tomorrow, I'm afraid. I'll get it all back together tomorrow. New Vanos solenoid, new turbo, oil drain, put it all back together, chuck some oil in it, and we should be good to go. As I say, temporary, gonna space the back of the bonnet out, I think, just to clear the header tank, and then long term we're gonna get a little alloy one made up that's a bit shorter. Should give us the clearance we need so it's not tapping against the bonnet. But again, it's not finished, I haven't got the heat shield or anything in there, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to go for here. There's a cold air feed there, so hopefully we should be able to wrap this up tomorrow, and then we can do a final, have a look, check, listen, run. But yeah, I think this is all we're going to be able to do for today, so I will catch up with you again in the morning. Hello, welcome back to Spanners. Just back on the Mini, had to wait a couple of days for parts. I got 2 of them straight away, but this blooming oil return, I had to get it straight from Mini. It weren't cheap, but it weren't actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. Somehow, despite you clearly seeing it's blue sky above, it's just starting to rain, so I don't know how much I'm going to get done today. Lord only knows where this rain is coming from, because, I mean, come on, how is it raining? But it is. We'll quickly show you where we got to anyway. So Vanos solenoid is replaced, brand new one down there, probably just see it. I've just got to put that sort of intake back together. Exhaust or downpipe is back on, you can probably see down there, brand new oil return straight from me. Again, £60. It's not cheap for a pipe, but again, compared to some of the other parts from the main dealer, it wasn't too bad. We've already done the feed, which we showed you the other day. Brand new gasket in here as well. The other one wasn't that old, but to be honest, this was a cheap downpipe, so the gasket wasn't great, if I'm honest. And you know, you can see down there from the blackening on the top of the man. I've cleaned it a bit, but you can see it was blowing a bit, but I've nipped it up, and it seems to be fairly uniform all the way around. It's probably still not going to bloody seal, but you know, again, hopefully it will seal enough for us to crack on for now. If not, I might have to get a bit of paste behind it or something, but it's not a huge job after you've done it once or twice to get this thing off again, and sort of look into ways of sealing it. But you know, when I get the rest of the exhaust, if I still can't have much luck with it again, because it was very cheap, I'll just get them to make me a downpipe, or get one of the branded ones like a Cobra or something, because they seem to work. Again, depending on weather and whatnot, depends on how much of this I'll be able to time lapse, but I will get the tripod out and see if I can set something up so you can see me putting a few bits back together. But again, nature of, because the front end's disconnected and moved forward, I can get in there, but because it's not removed, it's very difficult to conclusively show you exactly what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But I'll try and revisit anything that you can't see, that I can remember anyway, just to show you what I did or what has been done. But essentially, aside from the strip down for access and everything, the actual removal of these 2 pipes, you know, this one and the return under there, isn't difficult. It's a couple of bolts, but it's, you know, little bits and bobs like making sure you've got the access, because, you know, even if you manage to get the pipe out, you will not get the new pipe in unless you've got the access. Making sure you replace the copper washers. This is actually an aftermarket bolt here. Again, you know, just correct size, thread, etc, etc. If you are going to use something aftermarket, just make sure the oil supply hole, etc, is similar or the same size as the manufacturer one. Torque setting on the return, I think, is 8 to 10 Newton meters. It's not very much, so we haven't gone wild with that. The new Mini part as well, the oil return straight from Mini, actually comes with the constant pressure clip, like the washing machine clip, that's sort of glued to the pipe with a little snap ring on it that holds it open, so you can just drop it in place, pop the snap ring off, and it's on, which I thought was a really nice little touch, which I didn't seem to see on some of the cheap ones you get online. So there is one benefit to getting the OE stuff. Yeah, other than that, just bought a few things back together, nip a few bits up. I've started topping up the coolant, but obviously it's going to need to bleed when it starts. It is still currently completely empty of oil, so I was just waiting for that oil return pipe. So I'm going to top it up with oil, and then, yeah, make sure nothing's leaking, and then give it a bleed. So So again, unless I'm popping back to show you something I haven't been able to easily film, I'll probably time lapse now and then catch up with you at the end when it's done, and hopefully we're testing it. Enjoy. If you haven't already, please like and sub.